So the kidneys are going to process 180 liters, 47 gallons of fluid every day. So of that 180 liters, only about 1.5 liters actually becomes urine. So if you do the math there, less than 1% of the filtrate that enters your kidney tubules actually becomes urine. So there's a lot of processing that has to happen. The kidneys filter blood's entire plasma, so the fluid portion of your blood gets filtered 60 times each day. Kidneys never stop working. In fact, if there's a problem with your kidneys, that's typically a major issue. So because of the amount of work that they do, about a fifth to a fourth, 20 to 25% of the oxygen used of the body is used by the kidneys. So of the total amount of oxygen you take in, 20 to 25% gets directed to the kidneys. Filtrate, that's the fluid part of blood, the plasma minus the proteins basically, is what gets filtered into the kidney tubules at the glomerulus. So I'm sort of messed up that as far as saying that in a good sentence there, but it's just saying that the filtrate is the fluid part of the blood that leaves your blood in the glomerulus and enters the tubules. So the filtrate is not your urine. Urine is produced from the filtrate, and that's what we're going to have to do at the next part of this chapter here. So the urine contains the metabolic wastes from metabolism. Any unneeded substance is contained in the urine as well. But again, that's not the filtrate, it's processed filtrate. So there are 3 processes that are involved in urine formation. Glomerular filtration is number 1, tubular reabsorption is number 2, and tubular secretion is number 3. These are 3 very important processes. It's going to take up much of this chapter. So I'll explain them briefly here, and then we'll go on to different videos on each of these different steps in the formation of urine. So glomerular filtration is when protein-free and cell-free filtrate is produced, and that happens, and we saw that last video. We have high blood pressure in our glomerulus, and then this fluid gets filtered out of our blood, you can see the little arrow number 1, and into our capsule, our glomerular capsule. That's glomerular filtration, and that's what we mean by filtrate, most of which is not going to become urine, but gets filtered into our kidney tubules, and here it is, traveling in the tubules. Now this is simplified. There'd be a proximal convoluted tubule, a nephron loop, a distal convoluted tubule, a collecting duct, but we just simplify it with a straight tube right here. So then step number 2 is tubular reabsorption. That's where about 99% of step 1 filtrate gets put back into the blood where it came from. So this part is called, what we saw last video as the peritubular capillaries, is where reabsorption takes place. Tubular reabsorption. So step 1, we make the filtrate, blood to tubule. Step 2, we reabsorb that material back into the blood, tubule back to blood. And that's called tubular reabsorption. And, like we've already mentioned, 99% or more of substances from your filtrate will re-enter the blood at the peritubular capillaries. But then there's even more processing. We have something called tubular secretion. That's a selective process that's going to move substances from the blood to the filtrate in the renal tubules, even in the collecting ducts. So here's our kidneys saying, you know what, we need to get rid of a little bit of this or a little bit of that. So this is a fine-tuning step where even though almost everything got put back in step 2, some of it gets actually returned to the filtrate in step 3. So we're just a lot of back and forth going on between the blood and the kidney tubules. Step 1 is blood to tubule, well, capsule and then tubule. That's glomerular filtration, where we make our filtrate. Step 2, tubular reabsorption, 99% back into the blood at the peritubular capillaries. And step 3, tubular secretion, a tiny bit, very selective, gets fine-tuned and returned to the kidney tubules as our final product that's going to eventually become urine and leave our system. So the next bundle of videos that are coming up are going to go through these 3 steps of urine formation, beginning with glomerular filtration.